Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 20, Text number 2. Shapta Mahabhagavataha Krishnasyaikantike suhur Yastasyad agrajam Krishne Saptayam agavaniti. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shaunaka Rishi inquired about Vidura, who was a great devotee and friend of Lord Krishna, and who gave up the company of his elder brother because the latter, along with his sons, played tricks against the desires of the Lord. Purport. The incident referred to here is that Vidura left the protection of his elder brother Dhritarashtra, went travelling everywhere to sacred places and met Maitreya at Haridwar. Shaunaka Rishi here inquires about the topics of the conversation between Maitreya Rishi and Vidura. Vidura's qualification was that he was not only a friend of the Lord, but also a great devotee. When Krishna tried to stop the war and mitigate the misunderstanding between the cousin brothers, they refused to accept his counsel. Therefore, Kshatta or Vidura was unsatisfied with them, and he left the palace. As a devotee, Vidura showed by example that anywhere that Krishna is not honored is a place unfit for human habitation. A devotee may be tolerant regarding his own interests, but he should not be tolerant where there is misbehavior toward the Lord or the Lord's devotee. Here the word Agavan is very significant, for it indicates that the Kauravas, Dhritarashtra's son, lost the war because of being sinful in disobeying the instructions of Lord Krishna. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. So, Shaunaka Rishi and the other sages are anxious to hear about the conversation between Vidura and Maitreya. Vidura left the protection of Dhritarashtra after the peace talks failed between Krishna and the Duryodhana party. Krishna took the trouble to go to the palace of Duryodhana and propose a peace. Finally, even the last proposal was at least give 5 villages. Somehow Duryodhana was very arrogant, and even he tried to attack Krishna. Initially he made very elaborate arrangement for receiving Lord Krishna, thinking that we will somehow brainwash Krishna. So he made very elaborate reception for him, for Krishna, and in the palace, everywhere, very elaborate arrangements were made. Best of the cooks were organized to cook the best of the foods and everything. And Krishna, after the peace proposal failed, the very same Duryodhana, he prepared to attack Krishna if it fails. If he is brainwashed, then we'll feed him nicely. If he accepts their side, if he accepts their sympathy, if he sympathizes with them, then he will feed them and he'll glorify them, everything he'll do. Otherwise he'll attack them. So the simultaneous arrangements were made by Duryodhana for both this. Anyway, Krishna is an knower of everything, so Krishna didn't even eat with them. So he chose to stay with Vidura doing these peace talks. I stayed with Vidura, and Vidura was a great devotee of the Lord. And the conversation between Vidura and Maitreya He is so wonderful. It is, it contains the depth of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, of devotion to the Supreme Lord Krishna. So, Vidura was a devotee and a friend of Lord Krishna, and which automatically means that he could not tolerate the insult that Duryodhana, threw upon Krishna when he came. So therefore, Vidura, even though he was part of that palace, part of the royal family, though he was an odd man out because he was born of a Shudra, so he was like an outcast, but still he was in the palace. So finally, this was an opportunity, he left the palace. He could not tolerate Dhritarashtra and company, who were planning to fight against Krishna's wishes and even fight Krishna himself. So he could not tolerate. So this is a consciousness of a devotee. Devotee is very attached to the Supreme Lord. He cannot tolerate insult against devotees, either Krishna or his devotees. Either he leaves the place or he actually counters their insult, even to the point of, as per the Shastras, even in the point of cutting off their tongue or even killing them. So these are, of course, they are all extreme situations of and to be executed also, strictly to be executed by devotees of that caliber, in whom such transcendental devotion arises upon hearing the insult of the Lord. So most of the time we also, when we in our preaching Krishna consciousness, we also face situations where people insult Krishna, people insult devotees of Krishna. So this is a very good example that we should just simply leave the place or argue and convince them. If not, one should simply leave the place. It's a very good example for us to follow as preachers. Because if one somehow hears the insult of the Lord or his devotees, without reacting to it, doing anything about it, then it is definitely going to be affecting their devotion. It is going to dilute their bhakti. So therefore, if someone hears blasphemous things about the other Vaishnavas or about pure devotees or about Krishna, then the minimum that one can do is to leave the place, just like Vidura has left the place. Why the devotee cannot tolerate? Why a genuine devotee cannot tolerate? Because a genuine devotee loves the Lord and he knows how wonderful the Lord is. The Lord is not worthy of any insult. He is such a perfect personality. He is such a fair personality. He is such a kind personality. He is such a compassionate personality. When such a wonderful person is insulted or found fault with or disobeyed, he is such an intelligent person, such a brilliant person. Now Krishna has come to the Pandava, to the Kauravas, and there he is with his extreme intelligence. He is advising them against the fight with his unlimited brilliance. He gave all arguments and made them, try to desist them from continuing with this or taking up the battle of Kurukshetra. But still, they did not listen. So, Krishna is so brilliant, so kind, so fair, so compassionate. This is the nature of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the perfect personality. We have experience in this world of personalities. We have experience of living entities in this world. Anu and Vibhu, tiny living entities, then unlimited living entity. The tiny living entities are jivas. We also have the same personal qualities like Krishna. Thinking, feeling, willing. God also, Vishnu, thinking, feeling, willing is there. But in the case of the Lord Vishnu, He is perfect in the sense that He is all loving, infinitely loving. Everything that He does is perfect. Even if He kills a demon, it is perfect. The demon gets benefited. He gets mukti. So such is the auspiciousness of the Supreme Lord. Such is the greatness of the Supreme Lord. Greatness of His compassion, His love and everything. And when a devotee is the one who actually realizes this nature of the Lord. Unless one appreciates the good qualities of the Lord, how can he love Him? You love someone who is worthy of love, not in terms of his opulence and his power. Okay, God is so great, God is the creator of everything, so I love Him. If God is the creator, why you should love Him? If God is a creator, you want to survive, you have to surrender to Him. Love for God, love for Krishna comes from realizing His personal loving qualities. The Lord has two aspects, Aishwarya aspect and Madhurya aspect. His Aishwarya aspect is of His opulences. When we worship the Lord, when we surrender to the Lord for His Aishwarya. But one can also surrender to the Lord and love the Lord for His Madhurya aspects. Not knowing that even He is opulent and all those things. Leave aside that, just like the gopis. It is not the aspect that God is all powerful, He is all knowing and all. That's not the reasons at all that gopis even thought of. Why they should love Krishna, why they should, be mad after Krishna. Their only thought was, what a wonderful person He is, loving person He is. So real bhakti means that should strike. Merely, even if one is appreciating the opulences and the glories and the power of the Lord, the Aishwarya of the Lord, still that will be not pure love unless even Narayana is seen as most compassionate, most kind, having most wonderful personal qualities. Just like Lord Narsimha appeared for Prahlad, Lord Narayana is also very kind, very compassionate to his devotees. Therefore Vishnu is called Bhaktavatsala. So both Lord Krishna and every form of Lord Vishnu, Advaitam, Achyudam, Anadim, Anantarupam, all forms of Krishna, they are extremely compassionate. It is a question of devotees, by association, realizing how the details of how compassionate he is. Reading Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing his story, hearing his leelas, of the compassionate nature of the Lord, loving nature of the Lord, reciprocating nature of the Lord. Or simply even looking into our own lives, which is actually the most powerful impact one can have, is see how the Lord cares for you, how the Lord makes you feel that you are loved by Him. The deepest need for every soul is to be loved. That gives greatest happiness to a soul, when he feels that he is loved. He is loved means what? He is wanted, he is valued, he is important, his existence is important. This is the meaning of valuing. Then you feel love, isn't it? So, the devotee who is engaged in devotional service of the Lord, who is surrendered to the Lord, who is trying to surrender to the Lord, who is surrendered to a pure devotee of the Lord, trying to surrender to the pure devotee of the Lord, in his life there will be plenty of incidences which should not be forgotten. In one's own life, plenty of incidences where the Lord has made the devotee feel that he loves him. He is loved. That means he is cared, protected, provided, helped in so many ways. So that is also very important for devotees. Apart from hearing all these wonderful leelas of the Lord is actively involved in our lives. Just like so many leelas are going on, and which is described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Every one of our lives who are chanting 16 rounds and surrender to Prabhupada is an active reciprocation of the holy name of the Lord. And it is a question of devotees having the eyes to see the Lord loving one's devotee. And the greatest satisfaction of a devotee, greatest asset for a devotee is what? When he knows that I am being loved by the Lord. I have been cared, there's compassion upon me by my spiritual master. I have been cared, I am protected, I am loved. Such a devotee is completely at peace. He's completely at peace. Because it's a fact. We simply have to see this fact, especially those who have dedicated their lives, those who are engaged the whole day in service of the Lord. They are very much, their lives are full of, even others, lives are full of reciprocation of the Lord, where there is a personal care by the Lord for every small things, personal care. How the Lord provides for everything. So, when such a situation is there, the devotees feel so much love back for the Lord. So, they feel complete. A devotee never feels anything is lacking. He feels everything is complete. I may have anything, I may not have anything material. But if I have Lord Krishna's kindness upon me, which I do have by the mercy of, a pure devotee, Yasya Prasadat, Bhagavat Prasadat, why should I worry for anything? Why should I worry for anything? So this is something that the devotees have to have eyes to see this in their own life. That is the most powerful thing. And then, if you hear somebody insulting the person whom you love so much, and the person who loves you so much, when you hear somebody insulting, what is the natural consequence? You will be very angry, is it not? Or you will leave. If we are not angry, and if we don't leave, that means we have no love at all for him. We have no feelings at all for him. So these instructions given by the Shastras, how to respond to insults to pure devotees and Krishna, has to be executed based on the development of our devotion. If you can't, then the minimum instruction is to leave from there. If I don't feel like fighting with him and I don't feel like shutting him up or anything, nor I have qualification or I have shastric ability to shut him up. I cannot stand, he has to leave. So that is a formula given. And very nicely, Vidura has set this example. He said, I cannot stay in this palace, I cannot eat Dhritarashtra's food anymore. He is directly disobeying the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is so wonderful, who is so fair, who is so kind. There cannot be a better person than Krishna. And he is being insulted like this. And now you'll see Vidura and Maitreya's conversation. Such a purified soul as Vidura. And this conversation is very, very purifying. This whole chapter is called Conversation between Maitreya and Vidura. Any questions? जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।